The land battleship. Imagine seeing a machine so large that it looks less like a tank and more like a moving fortress. Meet the Panzer VIII Maus. Weighing nearly 190 tons, it remains one of the heaviest tanks ever built. The armor was so thick that most weapons of its time struggled to penetrate it. The problem was that it was almost too heavy to be useful. Many bridges couldn't support its weight, and transporting it was a nightmare. The craziest part is that despite its enormous size, it never became the battlefield monster Germany hoped it would be. Sometimes bigger isn't better. The Tsar tank. This might be the most ridiculous tank ever designed. In 1915, Russian engineers built a vehicle with two gigantic front wheels, nearly 9 meters tall. The idea was simple. If the wheels were big enough, the tank could roll over almost any obstacle. On paper, it sounded brilliant. In reality, the small rear wheel kept getting stuck in soft ground. During testing, the giant machine became trapped and couldn't free itself. The project was abandoned, leaving behind one of the strangest military vehicles ever built, the flying tank. Most tanks stay on the ground. This one tried to fly. Meet the Antonov A-40. Soviet engineers wondered if they could deliver tanks directly onto the battlefield by attaching giant wings and a tail to them. The result looked exactly as ridiculous as it sounds. A bomber aircraft would tow the tank through the air before releasing it near the battlefield. The concept technically worked once. The problem was finding an aircraft powerful enough to pull a tank with wings attached. As you might expect, the idea never caught on. The monster mortar. Some artillery pieces are large. This one was absurd. Meet Karl Gerät, a gigantic self-propelled mortar built by Germany during World War II. Its shells weighed over 2 tons each. To put that into perspective, a single projectile weighed more than many cars. The weapon was designed to destroy heavily fortified bunkers and defensive positions. When it fired, the explosion was powerful enough to leave enormous craters in the ground. The downside was that moving it required a massive logistical effort. Still, few weapons have ever looked more intimidating. The flying aircraft carrier. If aircraft carriers belong in the ocean, why not put one in the sky? That was the idea behind the USS Akron. This enormous airship acted as a flying aircraft carrier capable of launching and recovering small airplanes while airborne. Pilots would literally hook their aircraft onto a trapeze system hanging beneath the giant airship. It sounds like science fiction, but it actually worked. The Akron became one of the most ambitious aviation experiments ever attempted. Unfortunately, airships proved vulnerable to bad weather, and the concept never became practical. The rocket tank. Some tanks use cannons. The Soviet BT-42 used rockets, and one experimental version took things even further. Engineers attached rocket boosters to armored vehicles in an attempt to dramatically increase speed. The result looked like something from a cartoon. Huge flames blasted from the back, while the vehicle accelerated across test ranges. The speed gains were impressive. The control wasn't. Most military planners quickly realized that turning tanks into oversized rockets might not be the best battlefield strategy. The submarine aircraft carrier. At some point, somebody asked a dangerous question. What if a submarine could launch airplanes? The answer was Japan's I-400 class submarine. These giant submarines carried aircraft inside sealed hangars built into the vessel. When needed, crews could surface, assemble the planes, and launch them toward distant targets. At the time, they were the largest submarines ever built. The craziest part is that they were designed to strike targets thousands of kilometers away without warning. For decades, nothing else came close. The walking tank. Most military vehicles use wheels or tracks. This machine used legs. Meet the mechanical walker concepts developed throughout the Cold War. Engineers believed walking vehicles might eventually cross terrain that would stop traditional tanks. The prototypes looked like giant metal insects. The idea was fascinating. The execution was not. Walking vehicles were slower, more complicated, and far less reliable than conventional armored vehicles. Still, they remained some of the strangest military concepts ever seriously considered. The giant cannon. This weapon was so large that it needed its own railroad tracks. Meet Schwerer Gustav, the largest gun ever used in combat. Its barrel measured over 30 meters long and fired shells weighing several tons. Building it required thousands of workers. Transporting it required trains. Operating it required hundreds of personnel.